Very cool. All right, guys, welcome back. Today we have a very interesting set of guests. Normally it's one-on-one, and we have two guests today. Today we have Adam and Nora from Lost Lantern, and they're going to tell us about their process and the way that they're doing things. And they graciously sent over, I don't know if y'all can see it, but they graciously sent over a box with the samples of their new Midwest line that's coming out tomorrow, right, guys? This is on the day of taping this. I don't know if I can turn and burn this podcast that fast, but on the day of taping this is coming out tomorrow, and it's an amazing lineup, and we're going to dive into some of the bottles. But yeah, let's. I'm going to turn it over to them, and they can kind of give you the backstory on it. How's it going, guys?
Cool.
Well, thank you for having us.
No problem. No problem.
I guess, so I'm Nora. I'm the general manager and co-founder of Lost Lantern.
I'm the co-founder and head of whiskey sourcing.
Your name is?
Adam.
They
don't need to know my name.
They don't need to know your name. They already know who you are if they're listening here. So a little background on Lost Lantern, I guess, is a good place to start. Lost Lantern is an independent bottler in the Scottish tradition. That means that we buy whiskey from distilleries all over the country, and we either highlight one distillery through a single cask or a small blend of their whiskey, or we blend things together like our far-flung rye, which we'll be talking about, to highlight some interesting trend or flavor profile or climate-focused thing from across the United States. Everything we do is fully transparent. We're really curators and blenders. We're not going out there and saying it's we're distilling it when we're not. For us, it's all about telling the stories and getting people excited about where the whiskey comes from.
So there are just so many distilleries all around the United States now, and I think more than 2,600, and about 90% of them have opened in the last 12 or 13 years. And that means that, like, everybody knows the places that are in their backyard that are really good, and they know a couple of big national names. But there are wonderful smaller distilleries all around the country, and we want to really help people discover them and get a sense of the breadth of what's out there. So hence the transparency being so important to us.
Awesome. That's great. And I kind of found you guys. Oh, good Lord, it's probably been three years ago or so now. Through Daniel Winnington of the Wizard Academy. I was doing my level 1 sommelier training, and he's like, "Hey, have y'all had any Lost Lantern?" I was like, "No, I've never heard of that." What? And so he went into his whole spiel on it, of course, and I don't even remember what we tried, because this was a while back in y'all's profile, and it was really good. It was really good, and I was like, okay, well then of course I'm the type of person, I see something and all of a sudden it's like, hey, squirrel, it's gone. And so it took a while for me to actually go on the website and buy a bottle. The first bottlings that I got were the newer, I mean, it's probably been this year, well, last year, obviously, the Cedar Ridge sherry finished, and the McCarthy's, I think it was the 3-year-old McCarthy's. I can't get those around me, so I was like, cool, I can get them from you, and it worked out well. And then of course I had to get the Shadow and Flame release that came out recently, because I love Whiskey Del Bach and Colkegan, so I had to get those as well. So yeah, so you guys are doing some really cool stuff. So I'm happy to have you guys on and to talk about what we have here. Tell us a little bit about your backstory before Lost Lantern, and you can do it separately, however you want to do it, because that is also pretty interesting, somewhat whiskey wise. So give us that.
Yeah, I'll go first this time. So we both came from the whiskey industry or whiskey adjacent industries in different ways. So before starting Lost Lantern, I was a reporter and a journalist, writing primarily about whiskey. I had been writing originally for a magazine called Market Watch, which is a trade magazine intended for high-end spirits retailers. And from there, I got to know the spirits business pretty well and fell in love with whiskey. I originally come through cocktails, and eventually switched over to writing for Whiskey Advocate after a couple of years. And became one of the senior whiskey specialists, writing about American whiskeys and other whiskeys from all over the world, and became one of the reviewers for a whiskey from new American distilleries, or craft whiskey, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Seeing really was a lot of good stuff out there that at that point, back in the, I don't know, 2017, 2018, was still really not getting that much attention, and a fair amount of skepticism from a lot of people.
Right.
So saw that there was lots of whiskey out there that was really, really good. And I was writing a story about independent bottlers in Scotland and how they had come to exist. And was talking with Nora and realized that this really is like a business model that needs to exist in the US.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a way to get whiskeys out there.
That's awesome.
I'm holding down the table because there are train tracks right behind our production space that rattles everything. So I'm trying not to get everything to rattle. But yeah, so my background more varied than his. The spirits whiskey side of things, really, my training was at Astor Wines and Spirits, which is one of the best spirits and wine stores in the country. I was sales manager there, so managed the sales floor, and was the tip of the pyramid for all of the questions about everything there. So I actually came in as a wine person, and very, very quickly had to brush up on all of the things, including like Armagnac and Calvados, but then obviously also whiskey. And it was an amazing crash course and training for my palate and just general understanding. My background also, before that, I worked in finance. I've worked in startup operations in New York City. I am the business side of things. We both do all of the tasting together and all of the blend together, but I run the biz, and he spends a lot of his time going out into the world these days and visiting distilleries. We used to do that together, but there's too much business for us to run with that. So I am staying here, overseeing production and managing the people and running the biz. So
Awesome.
You don't want to just go off to northern Minnesota with me to go visit some distilleries?
probably not, yeah.
I mean, she does, but she's like, this train has to stay on the track somehow. Yeah, no, that's really cool. So let's get into one of these, because I'm seeing these samples in front of me, and they're making me a little thirsty. How about let's get into the Far Flung Rye? Is that the one we want to do first? All right.
Yeah.
So explain to me a little bit about this, and y'all can put these little labels on them and everything for me. It's pretty awesome. I use masking tape and a Sharpie when I give samples out, so I'm living high on the hog here.
So Far Flung Rye is a blend of straight ryes from 5 distilleries in the Midwest.
Okay.
The goal with it was to, in a single whiskey, encapsulate the things that we love about Midwestern whiskey. And do you want to rattle off the names of the distilleries?
Which is sort of what the whole collection is about. So this is the flagship, the Midwest collection, which is Far Flung Rye and 6 different single casks from different distilleries, really to show that this is a region of the country that we think is doing something really unique and is somewhat underappreciated or lesser known. And I should say, we are not from the Midwest. We are based in Vermont, which is definitely not in the Midwest. So this is not hometown pride. This is us saying we've traveled the country, visited everywhere, and this is one of the places that is really a rising star. So to rattle off the distillery going to this blend, the ryes are from Starlight in Indiana, Middle West and Tom's Foolery in Ohio, Wollersheim in Wisconsin, and Cedar Ridge in Iowa. So kind of range the swath in the Midwest from almost on the borders of Kentucky to the edge of the Great Plains.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's on the nose. It smells different. I'm going to say different than a lot of the other ryes I've had. A lot of the ryes I get, and this is a weird tasting note that I always give with rye whiskey, but it's my tasting note, I guess. It's like varnished wicker, like if you ever go into a Pier 1 Imports and it just smells like Papasan chair and potpourri. That's normally what I get, but that's not what's on this nose. This nose is very, I don't know, it's almost like new shoes, like new leather boots, or I don't know, it has a herbaceousness, but it's not like herbal. And every time I do a podcast, I'm in my shed. Every time I do a podcast, we have donkeys outside, and then the Jack, he brays every time I'm in here because he wants treats because he knows I'm in here. So I apologize for that. You got trains, I got donkeys. We're
I couldn't hear if that,
Good.
yeah.
I want
good.
to see
good.
the dog. Bring him in.
Yeah, no, you don't want him in here. He'll tear everything up. Yeah, no, it's a really interesting nose. It's super light, comparatively to me. It's super light. Maybe some dark chocolate and stuff like that on it. It's really nice.
Yeah, and us, it really, like we were saying, encapsulates what makes us so excited about Midwestern whiskey and why we decided this collection in the first place, where it's like, it is not overpowering. It's strong. It's 120 proof. It's not 121 proof at cast strength,
Right.
but it's not like a smelter like you get from really hot climates.
Right.
And still is really in balance between the oak and some of the, like the herbal, minty, and spice flavors.
Wow. And on the taste, it's nice. You get a little bit of what I call eucalyptus, like eucalyptus. And then like there's a slight rice spicy, like a cardamom or cinnamony note there. But it's not overpowering, it's not hot. And you said this is 120?
Yeah,
so yeah. So what I'm gonna do, I forgot my little dropper, of course. I'm gonna add a touch of water to it, just a splash. Because obviously with whiskey, you drink it however you want to drink it. It's obviously meant to be neat, but that's one of the cool things about you guys. You are releasing everything at cast strength. Is that correct?
All of the single casks are always cast strength. So anything that we're blending, we start with cast strength, but there are times where things won't integrate without a little bit of water. So we will sometimes add a tiny bit of water not for this one. This is cast strength, but in general, we sometimes will proof down until it plays well together. So
which means like, some might only be 110 proof or something instead.
This is 125 and not 126.
Yeah,
but
to us, exactly.
To us, that is no longer cast strength. But this is cast strength. These whiskeys were all Midwestern. They were all polite to each other, so they worked.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the cool thing, because like most of the people, if they're into whiskey, they know. Try it at the cast strength, try it at its barrel proof or whatever you want to call it. And then if you need to add water, or you need to add a ice ball or whatever, obviously rule number 1 applies. I would say, please don't add soda to it or something, but hey, drink it how you want to drink it. But, because these are, I'm going to say premium bottles, but these are expressions showing these distilleries and these blends, and you do all the blending in house. Is that correct? Everything that is in the blend is from y'all. So that to me is a big deal, because it takes a pretty trained palate to get the blend not to collapse on itself. And so for you guys to be able to do that and using the right proportions of each distillery, especially if you're doing 6 different distilleries in this one blend, that's a lot of different whiskey you're adding together.
Yeah. And if you hear any dinging in the background of our video, it's actually, we have a production person now, and he's actively blending for us. So it's a timely conversation for another thing. Yeah.
Pick the camera up and go in there. Let's watch it. No, no, I'm joking.
He's just dumping barrels. It's kind of boring because we already figured out the blend, and then he gets like the exact weight from me of what goes in there, and he does it.
That's the cool part.
It's but it's cool.
The part that's boring looking is making the little blends on the table with your like milliliter drop. The part that looks cool is you got the barrels on the forklift.
All right, maybe that's a good one.
So let's talk about this real fast, because I don't know how many different shows y'all have been on recently, but y'all have a tasting room as of right now. Is that correct?
In it, actually, that's our tasting room bar behind us.
All right, cool. Yeah, I see you got bottles all over the place back there. But tell us a little about that and its conception of how it kind of came along. Obviously, it was a necessity, but tell us about that.
So we the tasting room came along with our need for production space. So we were based in Vermont. We had been working with 2 really great Vermont distilleries to do bottling and storage for us, but they were growing and we're growing, and all of a sudden there wasn't space. So we found a relatively small warehouse space. The nice thing for us is because we're not a distillery, we don't need a still, we don't need big fermenters, we don't need a ton of space. It's barrel storage and a small blending and bottling area. This used to be a cidery,
Okay.
and they had a tasting room. So when we took the space, there was already a tasting room, and we decided that, okay, if it's there, we might as well open it. And our products weren't available in Vermont up until now because it's a control state.
Mhm.
And it's difficult to just go through all of that when your volumes are as small as ours are.
Right.
So it's been really fun to be able to sell to Vermonters in our home state, but it was really, the production space was the primary focus, and the
Right.
tasting room was a nice add-on that we were able to do.
Right.
The really nice thing about it is that for years, we knew we would have a tasting room at some point. So from every release that we basically ever did, we would hold back a case and just like have our bottling partners before hold on to it and say that when we have a tasting room, we'll have this secret archive, be able to release all of our old things. So
Right.
finally done that, and we include some of our older whiskeys in flights, and we also just have a few that are available here for people who are in the know and can get something that we launched online 2 years ago that sold out in an hour, and there's nowhere to get it, and it hasn't been for 2 years, except if you come here and know enough to look at the list and see it on there, and then we can hook you up with a bottle.
Right.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, that is fun. And I'm guessing it's open to the public. You guys are blowing and going with that. That's awesome, because like there's a lot of non-distiller producers and stuff like that are out there just shipping whiskey out, and you're not able to sample it before. And I know you guys have gone to the Bastards Ball and stuff like that. So it's really nice to get, obviously, for y'all to get out there as well, and to have more people trying your product, so that you can showcase these other distilleries. And I will tell you, putting a little bit of water in that Far Flung rye brought out a lot more of the herbaceous, more, I hate to say typical rye notes, but like the more herbaceous part of it, to where it's like almost petrichor. Yeah, I know, I got really bougie tasting notes, I'm sorry. It's almost petrichor, like moss, and like, it gets real dank a little bit, which I love in a rye whiskey. But yet you drink it, and it's super smooth. I'm gonna say smooth. It's super smooth on the palate, so it's like it doesn't bite you, it doesn't fight you. I can't wait to dive into that a little more. I'm just doing very small pours since it is a Tuesday,
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. So let's go back. What made you choose the Lost Lantern as your name? Let's go there.
The idea behind the name Lost Lantern is that we're shining a light on whiskeys that would otherwise not be discovered, either because it's a place you don't know, or because it's a distillery that sometimes their really special stuff doesn't make it very far from their tasting room. So one of the great things about our model is that we work with retail partners that can ship to around 40 states. So it is, like you said before, it's a way for people to get their hands on things that are hard to get otherwise. And if we had modeled our name on the Scottish independent bottlers, we would have ended up being called Ganley, Roper, and Polanski. And
no one wants that. Imagine that on a label.
Yeah. No, that gets a little wordy. Yeah, no, I get that. And that's the cool thing, because like y'all are going through Seelbach, is that correct?
Yeah, that's one of the retailers that we work with. Yes.
Yeah. And I just got told this by another distillery that they are now able to ship to Texas. There was a long time that Seelbach would not ship to Texas for whatever, 3-tier control, whatever. They just wouldn't ship to Texas, but they are now, which makes it a lot easier for me, because there's a bunch of items in Seelbach, like Spirits of French Lick, and people like that I can't get my hands on. I talk to Alan Bishop all the time, but he won't send me a bottle. No, I'm joking. I love you, Alan. But it's just one of those things. So like having good distribution for you guys is great, and being able to be in all these different states. But let's talk about stuff selling out. Like when you guys turn something on, like you're going to tomorrow. I know you guys are expecting a good turnout, but I know on a lot of your things, I would click on it and it's sold out in an hour. So talk about that a little bit. How does that feel? I'm going to say mentally. How does that feel when you are producing something and then it just sells out like that?
It's both good and bad. It's really fun to have enough people be excited about it that it sells out, but we're always bummed because people will email us and say, I was in a meeting. I was like walking my dog and I wasn't at my computer and this sold out, and that sucks. But that's also why we now single casts are always going to be super, super limited.
Right.
But we have our single distillery series, which is our blends of multiple barrels. That is more available. It's designed to be around so people can come back and get it or read about it and get it.
Right.
And our blend series like our Flung Rye, those are larger. So we're finding a balance between the really cool, unique, inherently tiny things that we're releasing, but also giving people an opportunity to buy some things if they're not on the internet right at noon when we release a collection. And we also are building collections more and more so some things will sell out, but they're big enough so something else will still be there, but it's just as cool, but maybe slightly less known. So it's a dance.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
We always try to predict to what if anything will sell out with each of our releases, because we release in collections. It's usually a bunch of things all at once.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a misconception I've heard from one or two people that everything sells out right away, which is even among all the single casts, which is not true. There will usually be one or two things that will, sometimes the first day, sometimes within the first couple of days.
Yeah.
But we almost always have at least a few or several of the single casts still available for a while, and don't want to discourage people from looking just because it's not launch day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is funny to see what people decide to gravitate towards, because sometimes it's the most well-known distillery in the bunch. Sometimes it's the least known distillery in the bunch. And people are like, what is this place? I've never heard of it. I need it. And that was very interesting to see.
Yeah. So kind of go over, and we can get into the next sample if you'd like. I don't know how fast we want to go through this. Kind of go over picking the barrels for this release, like kind of what you guys were obviously you wanting to showcase the Midwest. But you have some in here that are fairly known, with the Cedar Ridge and a few spirits, but like then you have Middle West and Tom's Foolery, and I can't, Woolenshire. Is that how you say it? Woolenshire? I say it wrong.
Woolersheim.
Well, whatever, But I will tell you, this is the one that, like, on release date, it might be in my cart. I'm just saying, because it's the one that I know I'm not going to be able to get around me. I've contacted them twice now to come on, but we'll see. Maybe you guys can help with that anyway. But so let's get into, speaking of few spirits, let's get into the few spirits, because I know quite a bit about few. Not quite a bit. I'm not a few aficionado, but I've had four different bottlings from them. And all of the ones that I have had have been pretty amazing. One of them was even smoked a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, which is really cool for a small distillery to be releasing a line like that. So explain, kind of tell everybody about this one.
So I think in general for the Midwest collection, unlike what we've done in the past, the selections had basically two focuses. It's both, we want to showcase this distillery. We love few spirits. We've been wanting to work with them since we started. They're an OG of craft whiskey, if you will. But I think a lot of times people aren't thinking of them anymore. There's so many new names front and center that we wanted to say, this is someone that's been making whiskey for a long time, and they're still making really good whiskey. So
Yeah.
that was an important thing for us with this. But also, each of the casks that we picked showcase an aspect of Midwestern whiskey that we wanted to highlight, that we see from a range of places. And the Few Spirits bourbon that we have highlights how delicate and really nuanced and subtle Midwestern whiskey can be, because it's a cooler climate.
Mm-hmm.
As it ages, you're not getting the crazy oak extraction. So it leaves space for delicacy and this really perfuming style of bourbon that we rarely see elsewhere. So that this Few Straight bourbon was specifically selected to highlight that side of whiskey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will tell you, and you know, my tasting notes are horrible, and I don't need to be a review writer or anything. They get a little crazy. I got yelled at one time for one of my reviews that I put on Instagram or something, and I called something dusty plantains. And they're like, have you ever ate a dusty plantain? You don't even know what that is. And so I have to like kind of reel it in. But in my mind, you get corn dust, the dust in the bag of the corn, and you put it on a plantain. Like, plantains don't taste like bananas, but you know, like I had it in my head, but it didn't come through at the but to me, this one is super, like you're saying, the floral notes come out really, really nicely. Like it's I say honeysuckle a lot, but like it's like a rose hip or even like maybe even a jasmine, like something. It's super floral, but yet you still get like that. With a lot of bourbons, I get remember the Luden's cough drops that they used to have, the ones that were cough drops, but everybody ate them as candy. Yeah, I kind of get that on a lot of bourbons, and it has a little bit of that, but it's really nice, and it doesn't have that pronounced vanilla caramel from the barrel char or the barrel. It just. And everybody says that craft whiskey, and you guys can chime in on this as well. Everybody says that craft whiskey is grainy. You can taste the craft in it. I feel like they just don't know good whiskey. And I'm sorry, I hate to say it like that, but like I feel like that you've been stuck in, you know, the big six bourbon land for way too long. You need to back up and try some Few, or try some, you know, try some of this stuff. And get your palate a little more around what other people's bourbon is. If you want to chime in on that, I know there's probably a comment in there.
I agree with that. I think that the whiskeys that we're working with don't taste exactly like Kentucky bourbon, because we wouldn't want to do them if they did, unless they're from Kentucky. Like if Illinois bourbon tastes exactly like something from Kentucky, why would you buy that instead of a Kentucky bourbon? You want something that has a different perspective, and that means sometimes it can be a very easy transition, which I think it is in this case, and then sometimes it can be a little more challenging if you're not used to different kind of flavors. Like the Frey Ranch Nevada bourbons are very earthy and like chip forward, and they're wonderful. They're very, very different than Kentucky bourbon. And they even in different parts of the country, people even distill differently. Like the head distiller at Few Spirits, Sydney Jones, wrote a guest post for our blog about how she distills at Few compared to how she used to distill in Florida. And there are pretty big differences in the production, because she knows that in the Midwest, it's going to age longer, so she can do different cuts than she did in Florida, where it was only going to be a couple of years.
Right.
And that's what's so interesting to us about bourbon, is that the climate that you're in matters all the way through production, from how you're fermenting and distilling it to how you're aging it, and results in whiskey that tastes different, but just as good in a different way.
Absolutely. And I just saw on this that this is sitting in at 62.3%. So it's not, but on the palate, it's not fiery hot, burning you like a Stag Junior would do or something like that. This is really nice and subtle. And I did add a little bit of water to it. I'm going to go back to it here in a minute. But do you happen to know their mash bill on this particular cask?
So here's one of the fun things is we do too many casks, so I can't remember, but I put it right on back label.
It's always on the back
Awesome.
label. Yeah.
Awesome. I
So-
appreciate that.
70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley, 5 years old, 53
Okay.
gallon.
Awesome. Awesome. Because I could get a little bit of that rye on the back end. It could be because we just came off a rye and I'm just tasting rye in my mouth. I don't think so, because this type of rye was a little bit different. It was just more typical because it was kind of covered with the corn taste. But it's really an excellent pour. So I had another question that I was going to get into and I forgot it. You know, I told you guys this was going to happen. So when you're picking out distilleries to work with, how do you choose? Because like you said, there's a bunch of distilleries out there, and I just did, and I don't know when this one's going to come out comparatively to that one. I just did a podcast with 45th Parallel, and those guys are Midwest. They are in Wisconsin. They're or borderline, whatever. They are, and it was a great podcast. Their head distiller is Scottish, and he's hard to talk to because I can't understand what he's saying half the time. But it was a really good show. But how do you pick from, you know, because there's so many out there? How do you pick the ones that you picked? I guess is what I'm getting at.
Good question.
Well, part of it is we do a lot of research ahead of time on from reading and from seeing what other people are talking about and from buying and tasting whiskey. But before we work with any place, we have to visit them in person, and that is that we will not compromise on. Is we have to go out to the distillery ourselves, or at least one of us, usually me, to make sure that we understand what they're doing, who's making it, why they're making the choices that they make. And then it comes down to a specific collection and the message that we're trying to send. And one of the fun things of the Midwest collection for us is that we're really trying to turn people on, not just to the distilleries that we're talking about in the collection, but to the region as a whole. So like we put some things in our blog and our Instagram about other great distilleries throughout the Midwest that we haven't picked casks from yet, but we love, like
45th
Parallel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or North Spirits. Yeah.
We actually were very, very close to buying casks from 45th Parallel in late February 2020, right before we launched. And
You can guess what happened at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. Bad timing on everybody's part.
Yeah, exactly. So we have visited them. Really cool distillery that I think is also a little under the radar, and would love to work with at some point. But and like you mentioned before, Spirits of French Lick is great. Far North Spirits in northern Minnesota is really good. Whiskey Acres in Illinois is doing the Frey Ranch growing all your own grain thing, but in the Midwest. It's just a region where a lot of people are very close to their grain, both physically and like sometimes they're farmers, or they know the farmers who grow it, and that leads to a different kind of thing than when it's just like coming in by the train car.
Right. And I mean, like when I was talking to 45th, he was like, yeah, where we get our grain is literally 8 miles down this road. So like we go over there, we hand pick the grain because we know the you know, and then that gets you into terroir and all of the things. And there is a terroir to the Midwest, and I can smell it and taste it in just the 2 little samples that I've had. You can taste that Midwest. I've never been to the Midwest. Actually I have. I've been to Missouri. That's Midwest, isn't it? Or is that
counts?
Yeah, it counts. Anyway, and it's just like, you know, Dukes of Hazzard, Good Old Boys, I guess, you know, type vibe on it, you know, and like it's really just subtle and nice. And, you know, you could sit back with this. I'm not a smoker, although I might look like it. No, I'm not a smoker, but like this would be great, like with a cigar, just sitting on the back porch but yet if you want to get super nerdy and deep with it, you can also do that. So it's one of those things, you can really dive into it, or you can just, it's no nonsense. And after a little water on the few, it brings out a lot more of that bourbon candy notes on it, and also a little bit more of the medicinal type cherry as well. So
I get notes of freshly dusted plantains.
I was gonna say it, but I didn't know if that was accurate, an accurate tasting note. No, that one to me is excellent. It really is. Okay, so tell us about some. I know we're talking about the Midwest spirits and this line that's fixing to come out. You guys are I'm super excited. Everybody's super excited about it. We won't be able to sleep tonight because it's coming out type thing. But tell us a little bit about some of the other distilleries that y'all have worked with and other lines, because I know you have a far-flung bourbon. I know you have you've worked with Cedar Ridge multiple times, Balcones multiple times. Tell us a little bit about not your favorite distilleries that you're talking about, but like some of your other lines that were really good in not only sales, but were really good to work with and things like that.
Yeah, we call them core partners, places that we keep going back to, because not only is the whiskey great, but we love the people.
Right.
Both Balcones and Cedar Ridge fit into those really squarely. Balcones was actually the first distillery to say yes to us. For real, one of the first.
For real, yeah.
For real, and they've been such great supporters and people that we can ask questions or whatever the correct way to say that is. But they'll pick up phone call and answer a question that we have, and also they've been very generous with their time and their whiskey, trusting us with the whiskey for a range of things. We've done a whiskey called Gentle Giant with them, which is our blend of their single malt that shows the more elegant side of Balcones. Which was a fun thing for us to do because we love their kind of face melter whiskey, but we know that they have some whiskey in that warehouse that is really light and wonderful.
Right.
And Cedar Ridge, as you said, they're in this Midwest collection, but they've also been great partners. They're the first distillery that we've done all styles of whiskey with: bourbon, rye, single malt. Now this malted wheat whiskey. Oh yeah, you have the Gentle Giant.
Gentle Giant to show, like it says Gentle Giant, you can't read it on there, but it says Balcones right under there on the front. So the ones where it's us blending multiple barrels together from either one place or multiple places, we give it some kind of a name.
Right.
Where the single cast says the distillery name front and center.
Yeah.
Right. And that's another thing that y'all are really big on, and we might have talked about this for a second already, is the fact that you guys are full transparency. Like you're not saying, hey, we're sourcing this from somewhere, MGP, we're sourcing this from somewhere and, slapping a label on. You guys are being front and center with everything you do. And that to me, and in our community, the whiskey community, whatever you want to call it, is a big deal, because there's a lot of people trying to fly under the radar and do subpar shady stuff. And you guys are far from it. You were, promoting these brands and telling people, and that's what an independent bottler should do. But you also get those ones that don't do it as well as we would like. So tell us a little bit about I don't know how to say it the right way. Like working with the distilleries. Do you ever have any that are like, I don't know, like I don't really want to talk about this, like I asked you about the mash bill of the few spirits. Like if they don't want to tell you the mash bill or how they distilled it or where they got the grain, like do you ever have any? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot or make you do any non-disclosure agreement or anything like that, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Generally people are really open. Like we've never had any issues with someone where we want to work with saying we can't put their name on the label or anything like that. We always send them the labels for review beforehand, just so they know what we're saying and how we're talking about them. But if there's things that they can't or don't want to disclose, like we're okay with that generally. Like we'll push them a little bit. But I think we had one place once where we couldn't disclose the mash bill, beyond what grains it was. But generally, like people are really, really open. They're like, you want to know the fermentation temperature? We can tell you the fermentation temperature. Nobody's going to ask us for that, but we have it.
With the pH, that's Jared from Balcones' favorite thing. But generally, I mean, so our job is to talk about why they're awesome. And generally once they wrap their heads around that, it's a pretty easy conversation where, yeah, like there might be some specifics that we need to go over, but like we want people to fall in love with them. And that is an easy thing to sell to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you guys know by now have both a personal relationship and a business relationship with these distilleries. So you go out and vet them and make sure, and obviously most of these, besides there a fair few that people know of, which people in the deep whiskey community know of, but and you guys are showcasing the other ones that people don't know of, but like somebody like Cedar Ridge, where you know you're going to get a good product no matter what, but yet you get to go in there and say, hey, what do you got over there? What's that one over there? So let's talk about that. The perks of being Lost Lantern. Let's talk about that.
Well, that malted wheat for sure is one of those, but I think the Cedar Ridge, the sherry finish is a great example of that, because Murphy Quint, who is the master distiller there, he had taken us all around the distillery, had us taste a bunch of stuff, and then he was like, hey, do you want to come taste this really cool project that we've been working on, that we got this sherry butt from Spain and we are finishing some whiskey in there, do you want to taste it? We're like, yeah, we want to taste that.
Of course we do.
And so can we take a sample to put it through sensory to see if this is a fit? He was like, I guess. And then we come back and we say we want to buy it, and his dad, who owns the distillery, said yes to us. Little did we know that was Murphy's favorite cask in the entire distillery. And they let us buy it. They actually kept a portion of it because it was so big that they kept a little bit, and we took most of it. And then Murphy wrote a whole newsletter piece for their newsletter about how we stole their whiskey. Yeah. And I mean, he'll never let us taste his favorite cask ever again. But is that this one? Yeah, that's that one.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh wait, look.
That one.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not this. Oh, there's water. I can't let that go to waste then. Good Lord. There's like 2 drips in there, but I know this isn't in the lineup, but still, like, so a sherry butt is obviously a lot larger than a normal 53. So were you able to get a pretty good amount of bottles from them?
Yeah, and I think we actually have a handful of cases still available because it was so big.
It's our biggest single cask ever by like a factor of 2. So we still have some.
People who are buying on our website actually can get a Cedar Ridge bundle, which includes that and the wheat whiskey and a malted rye that we did with them. Is that it? And far-flung rye, because they're in far-flung rye. Yeah. And that's a fun way to explore one distillery and why we love them.
I will tell you that particular Cedar Ridge, and we can go into the other one, I promise. I had never had Cedar Ridge. We were talking earlier about Germ from Freedom Malt. He sent me all these samples of Midwest, Cedar Ridge, the quintessential, Copper Fox, all of these distilleries. Shout out Germ, he's an amazing person. But I hadn't really heard of Cedar Ridge other than through the whiskey community, because I can't get it around me. Well, when I saw you guys had it online, I was like, hell yes, let's go, click. And I have loved this bottle, and I will tell you, I do have a backup. So that's a good sign. That's a great thing, because the sherry on it is very pronounced, and I love a good sherried single malt. So that's just me. Some people don't like that sherry kind of sulfuric, I call it sulfuric, note on it, but to me it was really nice and really great. I think I even used a little bit in my Infinity barrel that's right back here, which is really cool because like it's an Infinity bottle, but like it has Charred American New Oak, so it's actually aging in at the same time. Pretty cool. That's a different thing. But let's get into this Cedar Ridge and talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, sounds good. So speaking of core partners and asking for unusual things, how many malted wheat whiskeys have you had before? I'm sure it's less than 5.
It's less than 5. It might be less than 1. I might have maybe had one. You know, I'm allowed in the whiskey vault, which is a both a blessing and a curse, because you go in that vault where there's 2,000 something whiskeys. You're like, I don't know. There's Jack Daniels. Let's go. You know, like you don't know what to get. So I might have had one. I just don't. I just don't know right off the top of my head.
My favorite thing to do on the 1 or 2 occasions we've gone to go to the whiskey vault is to ask for something completely normal, like some Jack Daniels number 7, or like some mellow corn. And
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because all of the other bottles are like some weird one-off, you know, malted wheat whiskey or something like that. So let's get into this. What made you guys pick this particular barrel?
It's delicious. We love Cedar Ridge. We wanted it.
Right.
We wanted something in the other category for us. So we were looking for something that wasn't a classic bourbon or rye. And we actually had this barrel already in our collection. We snagged it from Cedar Ridge a little while ago, knowing that we would find some use for it. And then as we were building the Midwest collection, it was the first thing that got placed in there because it's so unique and beautiful and has a lot of the markers of a Midwest whiskey with a different profile than you see from bourbon or rye.
And a lot of people know wheated bourbons, but wheat whiskeys are more unusual, and especially malted wheat whiskeys. So this is 100% malted white winter wheat, which is a fun mouthful to say.
Yeah, that's a lot to say. That's a lot to say.
Good alliteration.
Yeah, this is 123 proof, 6 years old. So second oldest in the collection for our 9-year-old Tom's Foolery. I'm just gonna let you sit with it for a second because it's a malted wheat whiskey, and I don't want to influence your possible first tasting of a malted wheat.
All right. Oh wow. Okay. This is going to get strange, but just follow me on this ride. You ever go to the movie theater and you get the Whoppers malted candies, right? They have chocolate and they're malt balls on the inside. It's that, but then you have Red Hots. I got a little bit of cinnamon, like Red Hot. I don't know. So it's like you drizzled Red Hots on top, but it's not like super cinnamon. And the funny thing with wheat on my profile, which could be broken, I might have a trash palate, who knows, is I feel like a lot of times when there's wheat in the profile, I feel like it's super spicy and hot, but this one isn't. But like I'm getting that like cinnamon, like almost tip of your tongue burning sensation, which is really strange. But I'm ready to go back in because like I feel like it was a fleeting moment, but it's so nice, and like on the nose, it's just like it reminds me of creamy. Like it's just a creaminess, I guess. And I know that sounds weird, but it's just super creamy.
That's weird.
So I've been waiting for you to say creamy because that for us is it's a Cedar Ridge signature, but it is one of the things that we see across cooler climate whiskey, and specifically in the Midwest. That creaminess, like the mid-palate creaminess, is something that is a signature of Midwestern whiskey, and it's something that we actually, for Far Flung Rye, we last minute called in a Cedar Ridge malted rye barrel because we could not get that creaminess in the blend, and so bringing in that barrel brought that last kind of data point that we really wanted for Far Flung Rye.
And I'm going to tell you this, guys, and this is not a dig to you at all. You guys know what the hell y'all are doing. like I see it now. Just in these couple of samples, I see they are so cohesive with each other that like if you were to literally have all of them lined up together, like you could tell which one was different. Obviously, they taste different, but like they have this underlying cohesiveness, which has to be that Midwest part that you're talking about, that creaminess going through it. That, oh man, see, because this is so different than the sherry finished one. Like it's just such a different animal. But now on the second sip, it's it's not super red hot. It's more of that creamy, malty goodness that you get with a malt or something like that, or a malted shake, like maybe a chocolate malted shake. It's almost sweet in its taste. But then it just has that creaminess that just covers all of it. That's an amazing pour. That's an amazing pour. Shit. I wanted only one bottle. Now I'm like, I need the whole lineup. What is going on? Anyway.
Yeah, right. Well, that's how we felt about it too, where it's like, it's a malted wheat whiskey. Nobody knows what to expect from that, but like it's really always like why we like at the tasting room, people being able to taste things. And this is something that we'll bring to festivals for a while, because I want people to trust us, but especially for something like a malted wheat whiskey, like you're going to have to taste it to really get it.
Absolutely.
We've only done one other malted wheat whiskey, and it was from a distillery called Brooklyn in New York. And that was a whiskey that went from kind of slow sales wise until we watched as people bought their bottles and tasted it, and then it was gone. Yeah. And that was so, because it's something that people are like, what the heck is this? Like, this is a distillery, I don't know. And then you taste it and like, it's that response that you had where it's like, shit, okay, I'm gonna buy 3 of these. And it was an amazing feedback loop to watch those sales come in, where we're like, well, I guess that person tasted that bottle, or like that person probably tasted someone else's bottle because they came back and bought 4 of these. So
like,
yeah,
like, why did we get 4 orders for this bottle from some random town in California last night?
Like, oh,
someone got a taste.
What is going on? Somebody must have poured this for somebody, because that's just like totally random. And that's one of the things that I'm sure you guys love as well is you know, when I do whiskey tastings for people, I like to give the full gamut. Like, yeah, I'll throw a Kentucky in there. Why not? You know, give them their little pony with the, you know, the Blantons or whatever. But like, I love to like showcase, this is weird. Try this. You might like it. One of the big ones for me recently, where was it? I just did a podcast with Devil's River out of San Antonio. And they were doing some really, really cool stuff. And I brought one of their whiskeys. And the issue was everybody's like, hey, it's way too light. I want it to be real heavy. And I'm like, well, I could have brought like a barrel strength, you know, like a high proof one, but I didn't want to blow your palate out. Like, you're having a wedding reception. Like, you need to like calm down a little bit. But it's just so cool to get people into this. And you guys, and I applaud you for this, are the forefront in American independent bottlers that are trying to do this. I know there's a couple other out there, you know, that are doing things. This, to me, this needs to be in everybody's glass. Like, seriously, like, it is such a, and not just this one, any of the ones we've tried need to be in your glass, because it's different. But it's like, if you're a regular, just a whiskey drinker, you buy the same bottle, you buy Wild Turkey every week, you're not going to get this. You're not going to get it. But if you are a whiskey nerd, like I hope that we all are, if you're a whiskey nerd, this is for you. So you said you had sample packs. Yeah. You said you had sample packs, and so you're like showcasing Cedar Ridge, for instance. What other type of packs do you have? Like, does it show, like, obviously you have a full Midwest pack. What are some of the other packs that you guys have?
Yeah, so the bundles on our website, which are full-size bottles, they're not minis, just to clarify. So we have a Cedar Ridge bundle. We have, yes, a whole Midwest collection bundle. We have Midwest bourbons.
Yeah.
So the trio of bourbons, and then we have Midwest ryes.
Which is the
3, the Farflung rye, the 2 single casks, and then a sneaky Cedar Ridge malted rye that we put in there because it's a nice accompaniment to it. We have a
Farflung bundle.
Farflung bundle, which is Farflung rye and Farflung bourbon.
Okay.
Those all give a very slight discount, but it's an easy way to snag all of the styles of whiskey that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say, adding a little water to that Cedar Ridge, it opened up a lot more of the I guess the maltiness, but like it gave it almost a like you ever go to the convenience store and you're let's say hungover and you get you a French vanilla cappuccino. It almost gave that little French vanilla cappuccino vibe, but like the cheesy one from which I'm not saying Cedar Ridge is cheesy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that super bright vanilla forward taste, which I really enjoyed, and I can't wait to sit down with this later on, not tonight, but later on, and do a full review. And all the reviews I do I put them on my Instagram and stuff, and I try to tag y'all in everything that I do because you guys are doing some amazing stuff. Let's talk real fast about the previous release y'all had, the Shadow and Flame. Let's talk about that, because I really love a good peated whiskey. Talk to us a little bit about that, because I've only opened the Flame because I love Del Bach and Colkegan, and mixing those two together, why not? So tell us where that kind of came from. I know we're talking about Midwest, but
no, it's fine.
Yeah, those came out in our winter collection in very late November, like right after Thanksgiving, with a group of 4 whiskeys designed for winter drinking. And Flame and Shadow are a pair of smoked American blended malts, so blends American single malt. And Flame, as you said, is mesquite smoked, and Shadow is peated. And we believe that they're the first blends of mesquited and peated American single malts that have been released so far. Obviously, there are a million D blends of peated single malt from Scotland, and even more peated single malts. A million D, it's an official word. And we really wanted to showcase 2 different sides of American smoke: the innovative side with mesquite, and the traditional side with peat, where it's the American spin on the most traditional style of whiskey that there is.
Right.
So
yeah, and those blends are something that we wanted to do from the very start of Lost Lantern. Because there's such a wonderful tradition of smoked blended malts in Scotland that we both love to drink. And so we've been talking about when we'll be able to source enough whiskey that we can build those. And those came just from our stock that we had been buying over the last couple of years. With this a little bit in mind, but also generally things that we wanted to have on hand for the range of projects that we do.
Awesome. So, okay, let's talk about stock, and let's talk about your guys' facility, because I know right off camera is your bottling right now.
Looking this way, it's because Ryan's making a note. It's not, you're not gonna be able to see it because we have glass here, and
it's fine. Tell us a little bit about that, and because to me, I want to geek out on Rick House and all of the things. Obviously, you don't have like a Rick House, or maybe you do. But like kind of go into that, because I know when you talked to Germ earlier, you said that you don't use, like in the Far Flung Rye, you didn't use 100% of the barrels that were in the blend, obviously, because there's some that are really prominent in their flavor, and you might not want that in your blend, which is difficult as a blender. I'm not a professional blender, but I blend at home with my wares, and it's difficult because you got to find the right ratio of, man, I only needed like 2 mils of this to totally overpower the entire thing. So kind of go through the warehouse, because I don't know if other people talk about that, but that's what interests my group. So kind of go over that.
Yeah, so from a barrel storage perspective, we have a whole range, because some people store them upright, some people store them on their sides, and so we have both setups. It's a relatively small space. It's like a small distillery, basically, that size. And we have barrels that rotate in and out pretty quickly because we're buying mature whiskey generally for products. And they're here. Yes, we do not always use all of the whiskey from a barrel, but all we do is, when we're building a blend, we do small versions of it. So we have a pipette, and we're building it very specifically. We know what the overall volume is going into it, and then we're building up based off of that. And we sometimes take a long time to do that. Far Flung Rye took us about 3 months to blend, because we do flights and then we let them sit, and we taste them, and then we do them again, and we let them sit, and we will not release something that isn't good enough. So it takes us a while. And then when it comes to actual blending, I mean, we just have like a big tote that you see everyone has, and we blend based off of weight. So we factor in, after we finalize the blend, for anything where we're not using the whole cask, we just figure out the weight of the whiskey that we'll need when it goes in there. And then we separately figure out exactly how much goes in, and then we pour it in.
Awesome. After a couple of days, you taste it again, and then sometimes you tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
The nice thing about not using all of some of the barrels is you're like, well, this doesn't quite taste quite like the tabletop blend we made.
Yeah.
So let's add a couple more gallons of XYZ into this.
Right.
Yep.
And
we'll tweak and ready. Yeah.
Right. And then the extra you have left over, let's say you have a quarter of a barrel or a half a barrel of whatever, you just save that for the next blend that you want to make, and maybe you want to add a little bit of and next thing you know, you're going to do a far-flung, which is going to be the entire United States. You're going to have East Coast to West Coast, everything blended together. That's what I would like to see. And if y'all have time, I'd like to get into one more, because I know that we've kind of dipped in here and there, but I played it safe. I feel like I played it safe with the Few and the Cedar Ridge. The Far-Flung Rye obviously is a staple, and you guys are trying to. Should we get into the Middle West or the Wool and Shine, or whatever you call it?
Or you want to do the Middle West because we haven't done it?
I've done the Middle West.
Okay, let's do Middle West then.
I vote for that.
All right.
Middle West. And I appreciate you guys for sending over this, and thank you to Paula. She's an amazing person, and she's my contact. This one to me, obviously, now we're going back to rye. So kind of give us the background on this one.
You're better at telling the story than I am.
So Middle West is a distillery in Columbus, Ohio, focused on making whiskeys that reflect the Ohio River Valley. And I think the signature for their rye is that they use the same kind of rye that is used for pumpernickel bread. So it is not the same rye that you would normally use to make whiskey. It's called dark pumpernickel, and that means that it's bigger rye berries. When you think of the rye, then and that leads to more flavor. And I think like a little bit of like a roasty, toasty note to it.
Absolutely.
The fun thing about them is, they've been around since 2008 and have always been a decent size, but they just recently completed an expansion, and they're now one of the larger independent distilleries in the country, outside of like Kentucky and Tennessee and places like that. Even if a lot of people don't know them yet because they've had somewhat limited availability to a couple of parts of the country, they're going to be a big name in a while. They also do contract for other places. So Middle West is going to be a big name. So it's fun for us to showcase them now. So this is a 4-year-old, 80% rye. Yeah, 80%. It's 80-10-5-5. I didn't put the mash bill in this one because there wasn't enough space on the label.
Oh, because we wanted to talk about.
And it's all good because like your label is so descriptive. Like I can look at the back of this. I have one of the labels right here, and I mean, there's the story. There's all the like you guys are putting so much. You need to have like a tag. It needs to have a tail coming off of all the stuff.
It's worth noting that even more information is on our website. So if we're not getting deep enough into the nitty-gritties on the back of the label, you can go to our website, and we probably have even more than that. So if you want even more, you're welcome to email us. And
absolutely. And I will have all that in the description below, guys, if y'all want to go to their website or email them personally. To me, this, and I'm gonna show my nerdiness. I don't know if y'all know Dad's Hat Rye.
Yeah, we've actually worked with them.
Okay. Okay. So they're coming on in 2 days. Anyway. And they use what, Monongahela rye? Is that correct? And so like to me, it has a different, it smells very similar. It's very similar to the other ones that I've had, but it also has a little bit more of a, oh gosh, how do you say it? Like a what is that flower? I'm trying to think. It's a big, beautiful bloom. My wife always wants to plant it. I can't even think of it right now. It's like a tropical flower,
Realist.
maybe. Anyway, it has a very floral note to it, which I really enjoy. It's not your typical rye, your 95.5 MGP rye. It's very not. Oh, man, this is great, and this is 63%. So,
Yeah.
We're gonna need some water. We're gonna need some water with it for sure. But like on the taste, it is super. I hate to say it, it's super smooth. It's super, again, creamy. It is awesome. And so you say they're the one of the largest craft producers right now, which like, and for those who don't even know who they are, it's a pretty big deal. Like, because, I know that I'm really close to Andalusia whiskey, and I know y'all did a bottling with Andalusia, and I loved him. Moose is a madman and he does crazy shit. But I love him to death, right? He just texted me earlier and was talking about, hey, do you know this yeast? And I'm like, yeah, I know that yeast. And he's like, hey, I'm gonna put it in a rye, and how do you think it'll work with it? I'm like, how do I know? You're the distiller. Like, what's going on? I just like your whiskey. I'm sorry. And your rum and your brandy and all the other shit you're doing. But like, I know they just did a major expansion, and they have stripping still. Now they're doing contract distilling, which I think Middle West is doing as well. Correct?
A bunch.
So it's crazy to see like these craft distilleries, and they're super small. Like in the beginning, Andalusia, and I'm sure Middle West, and a lot of these guys, were maybe able to do 1 barrel a run, like maybe. They were running off a 300 to 500 gallon still, like, and now they're like, oh shit, everybody wants our stuff, and all of these other smaller than us distilleries want us to contract because they love our flavor profile. So like that to me should be kudos to the craft distillery community in Middle West and all these other Midwestern, because I know 45th Parallel or 45th Spirits or whatever you want to call them, they're doing a lot of contract distilling for other people as well. And so I'm trying to keep it Midwest for you guys, I promise. They're doing this as well, and it's like everybody wants a certain profile. Like everybody wants the Balcones profile, the Andalusia profile, obviously the 45th and the Middle West profile, and Cedar Ridge and stuff. So like how do you, like I said, how do you pick the ones that you've picked through all this? Because like there's so many great distilleries out there, but like how do you fine tune it to where you're like, okay, these are our core, I can't choose anymore? How do you do that?
I mean, the places that become our core partners is less by any like one deliberate choice on our part. It's just like a continuous process of like, we work well together. Mm-hmm. We really enjoy a lot of their different styles of whiskey. Like the Cedar Ridge for Parkland Rye, we called Murphy right before Christmas, and we're like, hey, can you get us a barrel of rye like instantly somehow? We need it now. And he was like, okay, I can make that happen. And
like 2 weeks later, it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like that, and they love it because we're talking about how they're awesome all the time, and they like us, and they think we're easy to work with, and it goes the other way. And it's building any other, it's just like building any other relationship. It's trust and it's respect, and it's just enjoying what that other person is doing. And I think that the people that we work with consistently, mm-hmm. It's all of those things. It's not just the whiskey.
Yeah. Every release we do, and so far we've been successful. I try really, really hard to have at least one new distillery partner in every release that we put out. And this one we have 3. This is our first release from Middle West, our first from Wollersheim, and our first from Few Spirits. So
okay, awesome.
And then the other 3 we've worked with before, but like Starlight, we haven't put out something from them in year and a half, I think.
That's true. Well, that's the fun thing about the Starlight, which we won't taste, but it'll be interesting for you to taste after. That Starlight we actually bought 2 years ago. It spent 4 years in Indiana, and then it spent 2 years in Vermont, because we actually put out a previous bourbon single cask, and we bought them at the same time. So they we have a 4-year that is long sold out everywhere, including our tasting room. That was one of the first things to sell in our tasting room. But now we have this 6-year that's coming out.
Wow. And so, yeah, and I will let you guys know, and I'm going to do reviews on all these because I can tell you right now, it's going to be hard. Those of you who have been following the podcast for a minute and know that I'm trying to get back to work and working part-time and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, it's hard for me to justify buying every bottle that y'all have. Like, it's kicking my ass right now because like, I'm like, oh, I really liked a few. Oh no, I like the Fort Flung. Oh no, I like the Cedar Ridge. And now I'm like, shit, they're all going to be amazing. So that's one of the things that I want to let you guys know, and all of you, and this is more kudos to you, of course, but like, they're not just producing and I mean, obviously everybody's in the market to make money, and I'm not throwing shade on that, but these guys aren't just slapping a label on some crappy whiskey and saying buy ours for a premium price. They are saying this is freaking amazing, you need to try it, and you're never gonna have Middle West. I'm sorry. You might have one of their contract distills, but you're never gonna. And then this blend that they're doing, you might not ever be able to try that again. And so what I'm going to do, and if you guys are okay with it, I'm going to give away a whatever sample I have left to a listener, a watcher, because this will go on YouTube and the podcast platforms of one of these. I'm going to pick which one I prefer the most. And I know that's saying a lot. The one I prefer the most out of all of them, and I'm going to dip into all of them, I prefer the most, and whatever's left over, you guys are going to get. It could only be a 1-ounce sample by the time we're done, but at the same time, I want you guys out there to try this, because I really feel that Lost Lantern is onto something with this whole Midwest thing. They've worked a lot with a lot of Texas whiskeys, which I'm really, really happy with, because I mean, being a Texas boy, I want to support Texas, but this Midwest shit is it's really awesome. It's really awesome. And now I'm kind of contemplating life if I need to move to the Midwest. I don't. It's too cold. I can't do it. Ever since I've gone through chemo and all this stuff, like I get cold super easy, and like right now it's probably 75 outside, and like I might need a jacket. So we'll see what happens there. But okay, anything else that we need to talk about before we sign off? I really appreciate you guys for coming on and taking the time to hear me ramble on. Anything else y'all want to promote? Obviously, promote yourself to the end of days, and anytime I do a review or anything on any of these, I'm gonna tag you in everything I do because it's awesome. But yeah, just anything else?
I think just you can find us on social media at Lost Lantern Whiskey, and we always recommend, this won't be out in time, but signing up for a newsletter, because we do give newsletter subscribers early access. So generally the newsletter people get a 3-hour head start on products. So things can sell out in that time frame. And then if you're not signed up, it is what it is. So that's my tip. And our website is lostlanternwhiskey.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm gonna do, and if y'all are okay with this, since this probably won't be out in time, I am actually going to do like a cheeky sneaker post tonight and be like, hey guys, get on there, go do a thing. We did a thing, go get on there so that they can get because I don't know if I can turn a bird this one that fast. But there was something else I was going to ask you. Crap, I forgot. Damn it. Anyway, so and I will have the website and everything in the description below for y'all to go to. And I appreciate all the time. Damn it! It was something very critical to what I was talking about. It's gone. I'm sorry, guys. You're just gonna have to deal with it. But there, and also these other samples that you sent, the Tom's Foolery, the Starlight, I can't say the other one.
The Fuller's Time, yeah.
What? Anyway,
Fuller's
I'm Polish. I'm not whatever that is. Anyway, anyway, I am going to go through these and do a full review on all of them. It'll be on my Instagram and all the things, which I just got back, guys. So yeah, thank you for that. You know, Instagram and social media is really difficult if you guys don't already know that. And trying to be in all of that, they ding you for one thing, and next thing you lose all of your contacts, and you know, it's difficult. But I appreciate you guys for being on here. And yeah, I stick on real fast. I want to talk to you guys, but yeah, anyway, until